Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Anne-Marie, as you know, about 3 years ago, I sadly lost my marriage and ended up back in the singles scene, and have been learning quite a bit about that since my return. It has changed dramatically since the last time I was single. I'm still learning about it. I'm not sure I like all of it.
I can imagine it's
there
nice.
It is. It's very, very different. Fortunately, we do have an expert who can perhaps like smooth some of the waters over for me here today. Her name is Lauren Salon. She's a dating expert. She described herself as a somatic life and success coach. That's an interesting title. I hadn't heard that one before. So we'll have to learn about that. But Lauren, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I am doing fantastic. I'm super excited to chat with you. And yeah, I'm curious to hear how it's been going in the dating world for you, Walt.
We'll been get into it. Up and down and down and down and up and down.
Okay.
And down. Yeah.
Okay.
But what is a somatic coach? I hadn't heard that one before.
Okay. So somatic therapy, somatic healing, somatic coaching is about working with the body. So soma means of the body. So somatic coaching is about working with the nervous system, working with the subconscious mind. So doing things like neurolinguistic programming, hypnotherapy. There's other modalities like time techniques and stuff like that, but really about getting into the stuff, right? Like getting into the nervous system, learning nervous system regulation, all of that to reprogram and rewire things that are causing patterns to show up, often like wanted patterns to show up again and again in your life. And so a lot of times, and I work with a lot of women who are like this, you can maybe like, okay, I understand why this is happening. I'm very self-aware. I get it. I can tell you exactly what's quote unquote wrong with me and what's going on here and tell it to you better than anyone else and why it's happening. And yet I still keep doing the same stuff, or it's like not really improving as much as it should, especially for how well I seem to get it. Right. And so part of why that's happening is because it's not a conscious issue or a conscious problem to like solve in how we're thinking or how we're understanding it. It's because that program or whatever is going on is embedded in the nervous system and in the like subconscious mind. So somatic healing, somatic coaching, we get under that stuff to like actually clear it out. Because it can be so frustrating. Like my friends, myself, even, this is why I got into somatic coaching, is because I was running into this. So I'm like, let me be the, former overachiever and learn how to do it really, really well from a coach perspective so that I can understand this for myself and figure it out. Because I was like, no, I get it. I don't need to be told what's going on or ask more questions about it. I completely understand it. Why isn't it changing? That was where I was at and where I see so many people as well.
Yeah, that's one of the really complex questions to answer, isn't it? I mean, I know what's going on. I don't get why it's going on. And it gets particularly, most of the time we end up, I won't say we, because it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, because everybody responds and reacts and things differently. But many people, let's put it that way, many people will find themselves in a pattern that is very habitual, that they recognize that the pattern is there. And I think they've taken steps to change the pattern. That's what you're referring to, the frustration that the pattern doesn't seem to go away. But you also have, and I think it's probably fair to say that more single women than single men are engaged in that behavior. I think that there are more. You're going to find in both camps. You're going to find many people who will not even acknowledge that they're the problem. They're still in the blame mode. It's always somebody else who's the problem. That's pretty common.
Absolutely.
I would say it's even more common than I thought it was, to be perfectly honest. I was shocked how common it is. It's a lot less common to say, okay, yep, I'm the common denominator. I'm the one who's at the source of the whole thing.
Exactly.
And to actually take the responsibility for it. But as you're pointing out, even when you do that, it can still be hard to shake the pattern.
Yes, exactly. And this is something even too, because to clarify also, I'm not a therapist, but when I do, like even with friends of mine or clients and stuff like that, if they're looking into therapy, which I think can be a really great solution and a great step to work on things, I generally recommend, like, depending on what the issue is, right? But like, hey, make sure you're going to somebody who also has experience with somatics or with working on that kind of stuff, because a lot of the time talk therapy can only get you so far. Yeah. And a big part, to your point, Walt, a big key is acknowledging that you might have some responsibility over your reality.
No. It can't be that.
What? I'm the problem? How can it be?
Yeah, that's probably not new in any sense. It's something more that I realize just how rampant it is, just how far-flung it is. There are lots and lots of people who just don't really want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean,
it's hard.
It's
hard work.
Yeah. It's hard. It's painful. It's frustrating.
It's uncomfortable.
And I'll tell you what I think is the hardest part about it. The hardest part is being willing not only to do the work, but to do it in a way where you're not beating yourself up for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see that more than almost anything.
Yeah. Because I think too, in the personal development and self-growth and in the healing space, one of the traps that can be very easy to fall into, especially if you do take if you're very self-aware and you take a lot of ownership, like radical ownership of your life, it can be very easy to be like, well, anything that's going wrong or not going how I want, that's my fault. Or then that means there's something wrong with me, right? So what do I need to heal now? What do I need to heal now, right? And I see this a lot with people who are really big on manifestation. And I very much believe that you are the architect of your own life, right?
Sure.
And I also see a lot of people who are like, oh, well, I didn't get as many people signing up for that course or calling me for coaching or whatever it was, or that date didn't go well. Like I must have done something to mess up the manifestation, right? Like who are getting then so rigid and like legalistic with it almost. And it can be like so stressful, right? Or like, oh, this didn't go exactly right. Then there must be something. There must be a hidden block that I haven't uncovered and I'm in the way, right? And so it can lead to this like never ending spiral of just like a bit of self-obsession for one, which isn't necessarily. Yeah, I'm trying to be gentle to the audience. It can lead to this obsessive, but you feel like a lot of people feel like, well, but I'm doing this is a good self-obsession or focus because I'm working on healing myself so I can be better in my life, for myself, for my family, for my friends, and my business, all of that. Right. But meanwhile, it's this like never-ending cycle of focusing on all these little things, and it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Sounds like torture.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, it's both.
Yeah.
It's both. Yeah. I mean, when you beat yourself up all the time, it's going to be wiping you out all the time, and you're going to get really good at it.
Yeah,
that's the thing I've noticed. Yeah. I mean, I've been trying really hard to not be so good at it. And succeeding to some degree, but I mean, these patterns are so deeply ingrained in our lifetimes that, we often call it baggage. It's not necessarily baggage, although we do carry it with us. I would say it's more like habitual pattern.
Yeah.
Those habitual patterns, boy, I mean, we are creatures of habit. That's what we do. That's how we live. There are lots of people who like to criticize it, but the simple fact is habit actually pays off well for us.
Yes.
I mean, that it's a vital portion of being a conscious being. If you don't have habit in place, it's going to be really frustrating a lot of the time.
Absolutely. So, and like you said, it's helpful. Like the goal is to have effective habits and supportive habits that are leading to the outcomes that you want, right?
Right. Yep. And then comes the second part, which is just because you change a habit doesn't mean you always get the outcome you wanted.
Yeah. Yes. You might have to fine tune a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
You realize, oh, we didn't quite land where I wanted to. Okay, interesting. Let's reword. Like, was this a fluke? Do I just need to like try it again a little bit and refine, or do we adjust the approach a little bit? And kind of to your point before when you were saying like, am I the problem, right? I would say like if you find yourself in the same situation, like the same pattern more than 3 times, like once you get to that 3rd time, the common denominator is you a lot of time, right? Like there can be, and especially I see this with relationships and stuff like that and people in dating where it's like, I always attract narcissists or these kinds of people or whatever it is, right? Which which might suck and be a really crappy situation to be in. But then it's like, okay, how often is this happening? And then you've got a bit more data to work with of being like, okay, unfortunately, not unfortunately, actually, but like, hey, surprise, you're more in control of this situation than you realize. And you're more at cause for it than you realize as well, which isn't like a blame thing. And I think can actually be very empowering, because then that means that you're also in control of changing it. But I think a lot of people prefer to be in that victim place of, oh no, things are happening to me, because it's easy, because then you don't have to, I mean, you choose which direction of hard you want to go in, right? Yeah. But it's easy to not take accountability for your life and for what's happening.
And not just in the single scene either. I mean, victimhood is rampant across society.
Isn't it?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and it's challenging on a number of different levels, not the least of which is not only are you dealing with your own victimhood, or perhaps not dealing with it, which is what most people seem to do. Not only are you dealing with that, but you're also dealing with, when you actually try to do something to deal with it, you're also dealing with other people who are in victimhood, or who are, to varying degrees being involved in so you're constantly having victimhood reinforced all around.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen a lot of that the last, 5 years or so. Yeah, a lot of that being like encouraged, rewarded, and everything. And it's very interesting to observe. I will say that.
And challenging.
Yes, really challenging.
Because it's not like we're just observing it. I'm going to sit back here like the authority that I am and say, "Oh, isn't this so interesting?" No, we're actually living the darn thing.
Yes.
When you live it, it's an entirely different experience. It's not like you're the experiment now.
Exactly.
You're not just the research scientist anymore.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is happening. Yes, this is happening all around me. Okay.
And in the context of relationships, personal relationships, primary relationships, it becomes more challenging still, because not only are you dealing with whether or not you're going to deal with your own stuff, not only are you dealing with whether or not you're in a blame or victim mode, but you're also dealing with, even when you make a change for the better, you're still dealing with other people who can also be in their own modes, and then you get results that you don't expect, and then you ask yourself, well, was that me or was it them?
Right.
Yeah. And that even that question alone is challenging, because now the question is becoming a perpetual reinforcement of, there's somebody who's to blame here. There's somebody who is a problem here. I think a lot of people have trouble with the idea that sometimes we're just not a good match. The words aren't coming out right, but sometimes we're just not a good match.
I get it.
It's not a max match, but sometimes we're just not. It's not going to work well. This particular situation isn't going to work, and nobody's to blame. It's not anything that went wrong. It's just that wasn't a good fit.
Yeah. Yep.
You go to the store and you try on 3 different sizes of shoe. Only one size is going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I remind, I mainly work with women, but that's something that I remind women of all the time. I'm like, most of your dates are not going to be it. Like, that's what you have to keep in mind. Most of the people that you meet aren't going to be your forever person, right? So like, you need to be okay with some level of rejection or disappointment at it not working out or whatever it is, right? Like, that's part of the deal. If you're looking for your person, and I don't think there's only one person out in the world for everybody, right? I think you can be happy. Yeah, right.
I think be 8 billion people on the planet. There's only one. You got a task.
No, yeah, I know some people like, oh, my soulmate. No, I think you can be very happy with many different people, right? Depending on what you're looking for and stuff like that. But you got to think like, okay, if you have like all these specifics of what you're looking for, right? That's not every single person is going to fit that. Just like you're not going to fit every other person's list of what they're looking for. And so you should expect that most of these things are going to not fit. And it doesn't mean that it was like it didn't fit or didn't work because of some horrible situation, or because they were toxic, or they did this or whatever it was. It's like, sometimes it's like, oh, you're great, and there's just this thing that I really need isn't here. And that's that, and I think with women too, I see this more on social media and stuff like that. Like, mostly on TikTok, where women will like share screenshots of like, oh my gosh, how rude. Like, look at what he said to me after a first date. And I'll read it and I'm like, he actually was very polite. He said that like, he's like, he had a nice time with you. It was good to meet you. You seem like a nice person, just not feeling the romantic vibe. And like women will get really upset over that when I'm like, yes, a certain like rejection can sting always, right?
Oh yeah.
But even that, like when you're you shouldn't expect to be everyone's perfect match. It's okay. Like just like everyone's not going to be yours, and you don't have I don't think you would have a problem with that, right? Are you getting upset because this guy wasn't my dream guy? You know, like it's not that traumatic.
And yet somehow we make it traumatic. We're really good at that.
I know.
Well, you don't always get the first job you go for, and then you don't stay there for life all the time, do you? So, you know, it's just life, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
But it does create challenges every single step along the way. And the other thing that really amazes me, and I'm curious to know what your take is on this. Now, you tend to work more with women, you said, but and what I'm seeing more of is on the male side. But there has to be some overlap because, I mean, that's where most dating is. I mean, there's some people who are homosexual, but the vast majority are heterosexual, and that's what they're aiming for. So when the pattern is in one camp, I gotta think it's also going on in the other camp. The pattern that I'm seeing, it kind of flashes back to what I remember about relationships between men and women when I was growing up. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, born in the late 50s. And it was an era when, I mean, there were very definite male and female roles at that time, and they were not healthy. They were quite far from healthy. A lot of those same roles, those same mentalities seem to be playing out among the younger generations today to an even greater degree than they played out then. I mean, now they're actually being held up as ideals. Then they were just, that's the way it was. Today, it's like, this is ideal. And when I first encountered that, I said, well, wait a minute, I thought we were, years advanced from that. Apparently we haven't advanced at all. Are you seeing the same kind of thing?
So yes-ish. And I would offer a different perspective of like, okay. Like of how we're even using the word advanced, right? And I will say too, I think there's going to be extremes on both sides, right? Where it's like the like trad wife or like kind of traditional dynamic where it's like really like in very like extreme traditionalism and stuff like that. There's of course those kinds of examples. And I'm sure a lot of people who are, seeing that as the ideal. But what I've been seeing, and I tend to work with, even if it's just in coaching and not dating, I tend to work with women who are high achieving, high performing women, successful, smart, like all of that, have generally excelled a lot in their lives in like all the categories, right? And even when it comes to dating and stuff like that, confident, successful, like solid friend group, social group, like amazing achievements, all that kind of stuff, but tend to find themselves not in the kinds of relationships they want to be in, right? And a lot of if I can like sum it up like really, really simply, it's like a lot of women be like, okay, but I have all these like things going for me, but I can't meet a man who's like manly enough or masculine enough or who like can lead me, who's like strong, like that kind of generalization is what the kind of women I work with a lot. And something that I've noticed, not even just in dating, but in like the business world too. I've been an entrepreneur and working for myself for 10 years now. I was that kind of woman, high achieving, like all that kind of stuff, like all those things. Like I can do everything and I can do it all really perfectly. All that, like, not to sound like a jerk or anything, but like, yes, right. Like all those kinds of things, like, and found myself in a marriage that the polarity was very off, right? Like very like good in many ways, but ultimately that like energetic balance of masculine, feminine energy was off. And so that's why I'm here where I'm at now of like teaching this stuff. I've like dug in to do my own healing and all of that. But over the last decade of running my own business, like most of my closest friends are also entrepreneurs, right? And we've been able to build really beautiful, thriving businesses, very successful businesses, like making more than our parents have ever made sort of thing. And like not working all that, like just like really great professional situations. And what I've seen in this like boss babe community is a lot of women being like, okay, but like, I'm exhausted. I actually don't want to be working this much and this hard. Like, I want to like have a family. I want to be like more focused on that kind of stuff. And so I've seen that a lot where a lot of women went down that boss babe, like independent women route, which is not bad. Like that's not a bad thing, but also almost like prioritized that above all else. right? And above everything else, and then get to this point where they're like, wait a second, this isn't everything, like all there is. Like, why didn't I have more balance? Or why was I going so 110 miles an hour, just like make more money, success, like all that kind of stuff. And so I think we're seeing a bit like that's kind of like a subset of it, but a reaction to that, where I'm also seeing a lot of these women being like, you know what? Yeah, I built a really successful business to XYZ or whatever it was. And like, I actually want the next season of my life to be about my family and children and stuff like that. So I'm seeing that like on the entrepreneurship side of things, like the female entrepreneurs. But I think too, from like a bigger, if we're zooming out a bit more, I think many women, right? Like, I think one of the beautiful things with feminism was giving us the ability to like so many amazing gifts and so many things that came out of that, like women getting into the workforce and equal rights and all that kind of stuff, and being able to have the choice of how we want to live our lives, right? And my mom is trying to FaceTime me right now. It's as if her ears were burning. Later, Mom. And so like giving us the choice of what direction we want to go in, right? And I think there's a lot of women that have been disillusioned by the go out there and work hard like a man kind of message, which again is not necessarily, like, I'm simplifying it a lot, right? But the like go out and work like a man. And I think part of what you're seeing, Walt, is I think the like equality message for a lot of women was communicated as like, in order to compete, you should act like a man or try and be like men in a way, right? And like there's so many layers to this, because in our world, right, which is very masculine energy dominant, in the workforce and stuff like that, like in many ways, in order to be successful, you did need to adapt to more masculine traits and stuff like that, and competitive and like that kind of thing. And so I think there's just a lot of women who have maybe seen their friends, their parents, whoever it is, go down that hyper independent woman route and realize it's not as fulfilling as they thought it would be. And seeing then like, okay, actually, like I think family and like this more traditional route, that looks more appealing, right? And so what I think, and I think there are women like in their 20s and stuff who are just like, I never want to work. And I think there's importance to like having a career also in your own passions and being able to make your own money and all that kind of stuff. But I think at least with women like in their 30s and 40s and stuff like that, and like my friends and peers, it's the like, oh yeah, like I love that I've had this really thriving career and all these accomplishments and stuff like that. And I like so grateful that I had the choice to be able to go down that path. And now or for the near future, I want to be in a more traditional kind of dynamic, or this is what I would want, because that would feel more fulfilling for my heart and soul. So that's a bit of what I'm seeing for it. But I know there are the extreme kind of directions too of like, you know, not entering the job force at all, which I think is potentially very risky.
Yeah, there are quite a few of them. We can talk about them in a moment. Anne-Marie, I'm curious to know what your take is on this, though, because since Lauren tends to work mainly with women, you're a woman. How much is what she's saying aligns with your experience? I mean, you're in a very happy, successful marriage relationship right now. You do have your own career, and you have a kind of a balance going on there. How much of what she's talking about aligns with your experience?
Oh, yeah, I can totally relate to that, because obviously I had my kids a lot later. I was in my 40s when I had my last child. And, you know, I did the whole work thing. And then it was like, oh, actually, maybe I do want to do that traditional. I was exactly that person. And then I was just fortunate enough to still be able to have my children that little bit later. But it's a juggle. And I think you have to think about what you actually want, what your values are, and what you want out of life, because having it all is exhausting.
Yeah.
Having that family and having that career and everything, you know, there is a juggle, and there is still that tug of your heart going along. So I think you have to find out who you are and what you want, and then work with another person to bring everything to the table.
Absolutely. Yes, completely agree with that. And yeah, doing it all is gonna stretch you, right? And I think too, and Anne-Marie maybe speaks to this a little bit more, depending on the season, right? One thing is going to demand more of your attention than another, and should get more of your attention than another, right? Like I'm sure like when your babies were young, right? You're like, okay, work gets to kind of be the lower priority on the list, and babies get to be the higher priority, right? And so knowing too, like how to navigate those seasons and the ebbs and flows of it.
Absolutely. And it's just taking life. It's just going along the waves and taking a little sailboat off and just navigating that little journey. But, you know, I think it's also useful to look at the perspective of your partner or of somebody of the opposite sex to realize what they're going through. Because sometimes you're stuck at home with the kids and thinking they're off to work and they're having a great time and, you know, they can have a hot cup of tea and go to the toilet on their own. But actually, you know, it's just relating that they come home to kids and they're exhausted. There's just, I think it's all about looking at both perspectives and being a unit.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So important. And I think one of the things too with the like the concern, or I guess with seeing like so many very young women, like, yeah, if I love the idea of like not working at all or only working on the things that are like the most fun always, right? Like never doing the work that feels hard and stuff like that, only if you want to, right? Like that's such a nice idea. And so I think there are a lot of women, and I see this a lot on social media, who are very young and who are like, well, I'm just going to get married at 20 and not have to work, like to a rich guy and not have to work and that kind of stuff, which like, sure, I'm sure there are many situations where that works out nicely and stuff like that. But there's a concern, right? And I'm like, okay, like wanting to like give advice of like, it's so important to have your own skill set and be able to like have your own money and stuff like that. I think that's so important.
I agree. Because how long does that stay interesting for?
Yeah. Even just out of boredom, like not even just for like security in case something goes wrong, but also like, yeah. Like,
It's like, so you can move into your dream house, but after a year, it's just another house.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't make life perfect.
Exactly.
Well, it also creates the challenge of the many challenges, but the challenge I'm thinking about is the challenge of not only how does it affect your life, how does it affect your interest in what you're doing, but also how does it affect your partner? If you're the same person who's not doing anything else, and you know, you're just that housewife, that's all you are. At what point does that start to affect the relationship in a contrary way?
Yeah. Well, and I think it depends, of course, like and not to like minimize like how much work housewives do and stuff like that, or full-time moms and stuff. But I think, yeah, that's really important, because I think most people want to be growing and evolving, right? And that's something that's inevitable in life. And so if you're growing and evolving and pursuing goals and all this kind of stuff, and your partner isn't really on that path with you, that's going to create major problems, right? So even
divorce.
if exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was part of my divorce.
Mine as well.
And so it's so important to be really clear with your partner. Anne-Marie, you spoke into this, but being really clear, like, okay, what is the vision that you have for your relationship and your life, both individually and together? And okay, maybe you're not working full time, but do you have hobbies? Like, are you volunteering? Like, what are those things that fill you up so that your worth, your joy, all of that isn't completely dependent just on your family and other people, right? Like making sure to have these things that are for you.
Exactly. And I certainly know when I had my youngest child, I took about 4 years off work, but that's when I started all my self-development, and I did do that volunteering. So I was also growing as a mother and as a person in myself. So I totally relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not growing, where are you going?
That sounds like a car sticker.
It's scary, actually.
Well, but it is the sort of thing where it's like, okay, if you're not moving forward, right? If you're not growing, if you're not moving forward, you're staying the same, but staying the same is also kind of the same as like decay, right? If we're thinking of like biological and scientific standpoint, and that's not how you want to be as a human.
It's certainly not going to create a life. I mean, life is evolving. Life, as you said, you used the word I think that best describes it, Laura, and you described it as growing. We are in a growth mode throughout our lives. If we're not really alive, and we probably aren't alive. I mean, that's literally how life tends to end, when people just give up on the growing. They just stop entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
And pretty closely after that.
Yeah, and even with like just aging in general, right? I think the people that, you know, so many people that you're like surprised at how good they look for their age or whatever, it's the people who are stimulating their minds, learning new things, doing things like enjoying hobbies, and like doing things in their day-to-day life also. It's when they like stop and start just sitting around and like, oh, I've learned all the things, I've seen all the things, is you start to see that on someone's body too.
Oh yeah. Well, especially when you get up into my age group, because now I married late. I married in my early 40s. The marriage lasted 23 years. And then when I came out the other side, I started re-engaging in the singles world again. And the singles world at this age group is very different from the singles world before the marriage, like dramatically different, like not even hardly in the same universe different.
Yeah.
And when it's that different, you notice a number of things. One of the things that I noticed, it's kind of like one of my touchstones for understanding where older singles are at these days. I went to a singles event, and quite honestly, it was one of the most boring events I've ever been at in my life. But the thing that made it really challenging and difficult for me was I discovered very quickly within the conversation, I was the only person in the event. There were probably 40 people there. I was the only one there who was not on at least one medication. And that was a big topic. How many different medications, what they were for, what they were doing with it, and so forth. And all I could think was, what, you guys don't take care of yourself? What's going on here? I don't understand. But it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. And to see the decay that had taken place in terms of people's bodies, people literally just not taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was startling. It was kind of frightening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, what am I in for now?
Right. Yeah. I mean, even like even like high school reunions I've been to, and I'm like, oh, we've taken care of ourselves in very different ways since high school, you know? And it is the sort of, I think when you have a growth mindset and you're committed to healing and growth and all of that, like it shows up in your energy, obviously, but it's going to show up in your skin, in your like body, all of that. It's like so much. I am going to guess that you guys would agree with this, but a lot of the times like stagnant energy in our mind, right? Or like frustrations or that kind of stuff, that's going to manifest in our body in some way too.
And you see that in my age group. You literally see it physically in front of you. You can see the person who's in a stuck mentality, and you can see their body, and the two match. The match is unmistakable.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
One of the things that I'm kind of proud of myself on this one, I tend to get a lot of comments from the women that I've met that I have a very young body, and I say, thank you. That means I'm actually doing something right. I'm actually focusing on the right growth path. I'm actually doing good stuff. I'm actually pursuing my life. I'm not thinking in terms of aging and things like that. I'm just saying, let's go for it. Life's here. Let's do the whole thing. And that's my mantra all along. I am astonished though how many people don't have anything similar to that going on.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest things I've had to come to terms with since becoming single again.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is for them. I know what the answer is for me, but I have no idea what to do for them. I have no idea how to help them with it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know either, but thankfully it's not your responsibility, right?
Thank goodness. Yeah. I'd be in real trouble.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, but it also does affect me indirectly because it affects me directly in a sense, because it also shrinks the pool of available dating partners.
Exactly. Because the like baseline of kind of that health expectation and stuff like that it's lowering. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, these days, part of the picture is the whole dating app thing, which I'm becoming more and more sour about because I've met a number of women that way and some very lovely people that way too. But the whole app thing it's really starting to rub me the wrong way because of what it does.
I'm curious, what are some of your annoyances with
I
it,
mean,
because I'm not a big fan of like
I'm not a
perspectives
fan.
in a
I
second.
mean, I use them just because that's a way to meet some people, but
Yeah.
I don't give it very much energy because, well, I don't like the way apps are organized. Apps are organized around what they call the profile. The profile is a series of static pictures and a short description about yourself and what you're looking for, and maybe some cute things that you have to say. And from that profile, you're supposed to get some idea of what it is that this person really is, so that you can find out whether you want to meet them, which I find to be grossly inaccurate.
Yeah.
Like substantially. I mean, here's the part that I really don't understand. Why is it that there are no apps that actually feature people moving in their pictures? No video. Why isn't video part of the apps? I don't get that.
If I'm remembering with Hinge, or at least the like few years ago when I last used it, you could put videos in Hinge, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
Can't.
Right. Exactly.
Which is bizarre. I mean, that's the one way you can actually see is people can actually see how you behave, what your body language is and so forth. You can't see that in a still photo. So it's your one chance to show off who you are, and they don't give you the way to do that. I don't get that.
Yeah, exactly. But see, I don't really recommend dating apps for like anybody, to be perfectly honest. And here's the thing, like when I was using dating apps, I had a lot of success with them. And I also think that I knew how to use them very well too. Like, so I can coach people on how to use them effectively and use them in a more efficient way to like yield the kinds of matches that you want, and ultimately I don't think it's where your time is best served for so many reasons, because for what you said, right? You're not really getting that full of a picture of somebody. It's also very easy to curate the kind of persona you want to present that may not be completely accurate. It's lazy. Right? Like how many people are swiping while they're going to the bathroom? Very romantic, like, so like it's low effort, it's lazy. And you're going to also get a lot of people are going to slip through the cracks. And not that this doesn't happen in real life, because it does, but a lot of people are going to slip through who are more like unsavory characters, right? Because they're energy, like their whatever sort of like subtleties of their energy that might be a little off aren't going to necessarily come through in a text, right? Or in an app. And they can kind of like bypass maybe some of that, or say somebody's like really antisocial in some way. That isn't going to come across in an app. Whereas in person, you might get a vibe from somebody and be like, oh, something's off, right? And so I think there's a lot of, and this is, I think, much more from the women's perspective. Men, I think, are much more at risk of getting catfished by like, women who aren't using accurate pictures or things like that. But I think women, there's a much greater risk, though, again, this could be happening for men too, but for women, I think a big risk of like, kind of like dangerous people getting through the cracks more.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, with apps.
And it's gotten really severe to the point today where with artificial intelligence, it's now possible to basically misrepresent almost everything about the app experience.
Yes.
And literally the only protection you have is to meet in person, which is not the way it used to be thought of. That used to be like the thing that you were most careful about. Now it's the thing that's the most protective.
Right. Well, and I always recommend too, and this is something too, I'm curious, Walt, your perspective on this is something I always did. Now, I ended my marriage in May 2020. So right in the thick of COVID, living in Los Angeles. So I'm like, will I ever even meet another human at all? And so I got on to some dating apps. And like I said, I had a good overall experience. And it's like, I always had a step in the process. Like I don't want to spend a ton of time texting a stranger that I've never met before. So I'm not going to be messaging you a ton in the app. And this is something that I recommend for everybody. Don't spend a ton of time messaging in the app. The goal is to meet somebody in person. So like if there's enough chemistry or a vibe on text, great. Schedule a FaceTime call, a video chat of some sort, right? And so doing that so that you can see, are we both who we say we are, at least visually, right? Are you a real person at all? That's now part of the process. and then see if that chemistry and that like vibe kind of holds up. And it doesn't need to be a long FaceTime, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? To see like, okay, like, is that texting vibe, is that going to hold true on a FaceTime? And keeping in mind, you might have some nerves, like it might, not everybody loves to FaceTime and stuff like that. So not being like too harsh with like, was it a perfect FaceTime or anything? But then using that as the like, yes, the kind of like security check for both sides, the accuracy check. And then like, okay, now was there enough of a connection? Do we want to like do this in person and connect? But like, yeah. And that's what I used to always like women, like, no matter what. And I think a lot of women would often add that step. Surprisingly, not as many as I think should, but a lot of women would, because for a safety purpose, right? Like, but I think just in my conversations with men and stuff like that, like a lot of men don't add the FaceTime step. And then I've spoken to men who've like, oh yeah, I got catfished. She showed up and she looked completely different from her photos. I'm like, you just went in blind off of meeting someone off an app? Like what? But that I think is a much more common thing for men, because there isn't really the like, is this person potentially going to hurt me kind of, qualifier going on.
Well, I think there's also, and this is something that the app manufacturers themselves have published about. There's a phenomenon where among the women on the apps, there are approximately, I guess, 10% of the women who get 90% of the attention. And that has a couple different implications. For the women, it means if you're not in the 10%, you're in a bad place. Now you're trying to deal with climbing a large mountain. And if you're a male, you're also in a bad place. If you're not in the 10% of men, because you're not going to be able to compete. So you have 90% competing for 10%.
Yep.
That's not going to work well. I don't care how you do the math on that. It's not going to work well.
And you guys, we have to also like, for not necessarily you, I think, but maybe you guys, but like everyone listening, these apps want you to keep using the app.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on. They want you to keep using the app too. So like, they want you to be like I Hinge was the one that I used the most back when I was using apps. And like, there's a reason why they're like, oh, you've got these the best matches coming up, but we'll only give you one of them a week, like pay more to get this other mix of the best matches and stuff like that. When it's like, they don't really care that much about matching you with the best people. Like they want to make money, right? Some of these apps even have lifetime memberships. That doesn't make sense if the goal is to like and pair people with like their forever person, right? So keeping in mind too, these apps want users, right? So they're gonna want to keep you on and like all that kind of stuff. So that's another thing too.
I saw I'm on a couple of the apps. Most of them I've put aside. I may get back. You mentioned Hinge. I may get back to that at some point. Right now it's on the back burner. I did take one of those lifetime memberships just because I figured it would save me fees.
Yeah, I think that might be.
The Bumble app, their lifetime was pretty inexpensive, so I figured, oh shoot, just pay it, screw it, don't worry about it. Right. I don't tend to be on for a lifetime, but I might as well just get that done.
Exactly.
But I saw something on Bumble recently. They have a special section under their profiles. If you click it, there's a place where you can get dating advice. And they have different people who are talking to you on camera, giving you dating advice. I'm curious to know what your take is on this one. It was a woman who was saying that she was addressing the question of, should you date more than one person at the same time? And her take was, yes, you should. Yes, it's a good thing to do. Date as many people as you can at the same time. And she acknowledged that wasn't necessarily for everybody, but she thought that was the best way to go. The thing that I noticed most about it was that it did not really address what dating meant. Okay.
Yeah.
And that, I'm curious to know what your take is.
Yeah.
I think you can see where I'm going with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in a committed, like very wonderful, committed, exclusive relationship currently. And when I was dating, it's not, and this is how I suggest for other people, it's not exclusive. You're not exclusively dating until you're exclusively dating and both of you have had a very clear and direct conversation about that and you're both on the same page. Mm-hmm. So like until that conversation happens that, hey, are we just dating each other and this is like exclusive? Until that happens, assume the other person is dating other people, and they should assume the same about you, is my philosophy, because a lot of the time that is what's going on. And I would say also, like, from a woman's perspective, right? Like, I think there is, if a woman's wanting to be in a committed relationship, committed long-term relationship or marriage or something like that, right? Commitment is a key part of that, and exclusive commitment, right? And so if that's the goal, that shouldn't just be like given out really freely or easily, right? And not to like hold it as some prize per se, but like you need to also be doing your appropriate vetting and stuff like that to make sure this person is a fit for what you want in that kind of relationship. And so jumping into like, oh, we're just seeing each other really quickly is not fair to you, I think, when if you're like looking for like my forever person. And so for me, a few things, like, unless you've had the explicit direct conversation and you're both very clearly on the same page, don't assume that they're only dating you at all. That's a great way to be disappointed. I would say, yes, date multiple people. You can be open about that. If they ask you, be like, oh, well, I'm like, if we want to talk about being exclusive, that's totally a conversation we can have. But like, until then, if there's other people that like, approach me or ask me on a date and it seems appealing, I might do that. Like, I don't think you have to tell them like, oh, tomorrow I'm going on a date, like that sort of thing. But if somebody wants that kind of exclusivity from you, then I think that requires a certain level of conversation and commitment from both sides. And until then, yes, I think you're available. I do think that when it comes to sexual intimacy, I don't recommend, and this might just be personal preference. I think everyone does their own thing, but I don't think that it's good habit or practice to be dating and sleeping with multiple people at once. And if that's something that you are doing, to be very like honest and upfront with people and be very like cautious and safe and stuff like that. But I think if you're entering into that, if you're stepping into that place with somebody, it makes sense to be just seeing each other. And so, yeah, but now back to, well, your question of what constitutes dating. Going on one date doesn't equal dating, I don't think, right? Like, you went on a date. If you're in the like, okay, we've gone on 2 dates, we've gone on 3 dates, you're in the process of dating. Now, some people take dating as to mean like, oh, they're my boyfriend, they're my girlfriend. Again, I'm like, unless you have that conversation over labels and over expectations and boundaries and stuff like that, don't make assumptions, because a lot of people these days will like be dating for 6 months and assume, oh, well, like we've been dating for this long and we spend so much time together and all this kind of stuff and we're sleeping together, so I must be his girlfriend. And then you maybe have that conversation, you realize, oh, that's not how he sees me. And in fact, he's dating other people also. Shoot, this is not what I thought it was. Right. And so don't assume things, because it's going to save you a lot of like time, energy, emotional strain and stuff like that. But I would say, like, if you've established a like cadence of dating, right? 2 dates, 3 dates, it's kind of, you're getting in a rhythm of it. You're dating. I wouldn't necessarily mean that or take that to mean that's your boyfriend or your girlfriend, right? But again, and also like too, there's all these like now little rules and stuff like that like,
oh yeah.
But I'm so much more like over communicate than make assumptions.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with you about the communication part. I don't think there is such a thing as over communicating.
I agree.
I really don't. It's amazing how many people do think there is such a thing as over communicating. And yeah. I'll take that from the single men's point of view, because you touched on the main point I was driving at, which is, well, what happens if you're in a sexual relationship? There are many single men who promote the idea of having many sexual relationships at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't think of them as sexual relationships. They just think of them as sexual encounters. So they're just kind of serial sleeping around.
Yep.
And the way that they promote that belief system appeals to the way that they come on to women, appeals to women in a way that makes women often think that they're moving toward a committed type situation, when in fact the men have nothing like that in mind. That's what I was referring to earlier when I said the old stereotypes, because that, I mean, literally 1950s, 1960s, it was a thing. Men, not all men, this is not across the board, but there were many men who slept outside their marriages. I mean, it was just, that was, and the more wealthy you were, the more that happened, the more common it was. It was just, that's the way life was. And then we went to the 60s and 70s, and during that time, there was all kinds of different upheaval and so forth, a lot of different changes in the way people understood stuff. And I think that's why when I came out of my marriage and I found out that was even more rampant now than it was then, I said, what happened?
Yeah. Yep. And I think a lot of like, and again, seeing it from the, like, what I see women going through and talking about and stuff like that more so than men, it's, and keeping in mind too, we're wired differently when it comes to sex. Like that's important to realize too. But with that, like, again, a lot of women will be like, well, he calls me all the time. He comes over all the time. We hang out all the time. We XYZ, we are sleeping together, like all these things that in a woman's mind or many women's mind, they take to mean something significant when, as far as a relationship goes. But in a man's mind, it's not, like, not in every man's mind, but in many men's mind, that's not what the case is. Right. So that, again, like, don't assume just because he's doing relationship-y things that he views this as a relationship, right? And especially too, like, with, like, when women are like quick to get intimate and stuff like that, it can be like, oh, well, we're acting like boyfriend, girlfriend, we're doing all these things, we're sleeping together, right? And it's like, okay, but have you talked about commitment or talked about exclusivity or anything like that? And it's like, no, right? But then doing all the things that they want to be reserved for a committed exclusive relationship, but they like gave those without getting the commitment, or at least not getting the, like, having the conversation to be on the same page about it. Yeah. And I think it's totally fine. I mean, I did this in my relationship, like, oh, okay, like I'm really enjoying things. Like if we want our relationship to look like this, or to be like at the next phase or whatever it is, like, here are the expectations I have, and here's what I would need. Does that work for you? There we go.
What I have with single men, particularly younger single men, is I've been noticing how, because of the way these things are often taught from, the gurus and so forth within the single men space, there are a number of single men who don't really realize that there are different mentalities involved here. That the mentality of the one who's just, playing the field is quite different from the mentality of the one who's looking to build a long-term relationship. Yeah. And there's a belief system quite prevalent that says, well, you can just kind of date people and then see which way it goes. And it almost never plays out the way they think it's going to play out. It almost never does. And then they wonder why things aren't working.
Right. Exactly. I'm a big fan of, like, go into anything that you do, have a clear intention. You don't have to be like grasping onto it so tightly to where, like, if it doesn't go according to how I want, I'm going to be devastated. Right. But, like, go in with intention. And that's something too, like, when I'm working with people with dating, it's like, okay, well, what are you available for right now? What do you want right now? Do you want to just get more dating experience? Right. Like for instance, and maybe you can relate to this, Walt, when I first became single after my marriage, I wasn't looking to get into a super serious relationship right away. I was like, I haven't dated since I was in my early 20s. Like, I've never dated in Los Angeles because I was married my entire time here. So I was like, I just want to, like, and I was so young when I met my ex-husband that I'm like, I am a completely different person. So I want to, like, date to, like, understand what it is that I want, and, like, see, like, and, like, get some experience, like, in LA, and, like, understanding, like, who I am as a woman and what I would even want now, And so, like, at that point, I was not at all wanting a super serious relationship right away. Right. But it's so important to understand, like, okay, what is my intention right now? And then making sure your actions are aligned with that so that it can move in the direction that is going to make you happiest. And something, Walt, with you saying, like, the philosophies taught by men and stuff like that, is with like a lot of men saying, and I think this is like a lot of the like red pill bro podcaster community and stuff like that. Like men who are encouraged, I think you tell me, because we've got a man on the line right now. This isn't even my show. I talk as if this is my show. I believe that the men who are promoting go out and sleep with a ton of women, all this kind of stuff, that those aren't healthy masculine role models to be 100%. Following. Like healthy masculinity, one of the core tenets of healthy masculinity is discipline, including sexual discipline, right? And yes, it's a man's biology to want to like sow his oats to as many places as possible. Like that's just a very like physiological like instinct, right? But men are like a good, strong, healthy masculine man. And I don't necessarily mean physically and stuff like that, but like good, strong, healthy masculine men are also tempered and they're disciplined, right? And they also, and I'm just going to go with like heterosexual example too, but like men should also value the way I see it. And when I talk to men I view as good, healthy, masculine men, they are in agreement with this. They should also value and be protective of women's energy, even if it's not the woman that they're in a relationship with. Like, and so if you're going out to sleep with as many women as possible, most of the time you're going to be doing that under false pretenses.
Yes.
Right? Then you're not being a protector of people less vulnerable than you, right? Or more vulnerable than you. You're not being disciplined. You're not being honorable and all that kind of stuff.
That's where the dishonesty is actually, because many of the red pillars will claim exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
They will claim that they're the ones who are the protectors. They will claim they're the ones who are being genuinely masculine and so forth. And they're actually promoting the diametric opposite of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're getting followers.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, and I think part of it too is like we have a lot of, I think masculinity was unfairly in many ways attacked. And so anything that seems masculine was like toxic masculinity, even when I think it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so we've had a lot of, so there's been this, I think, need for true masculine leadership and true masculine leaders and mentors for men. But anything that was masculine, even if it was healthy and if it was toxic, was called toxic. Mm-hmm. And so it made a lot of men kind of like acquiesce or be like, whatever, I don't want to talk about, like, I'm just going to get canceled, or like women can't, like, so a lot of men kind of like went into the background a little bit. But still, I think there were so many young men who are like looking for role models, and these really polarizing and many really toxic men kind of like found a voice in that and found an audience who was looking for role models. Yeah. Right. And so it's like, I think we still, and I think we're starting to see more like what I would say is healthy masculinity, like coming back. But there was like this big, I think, need and gap as far as like masculine leaders, and then a lot of like bad role models popped up because there was no one else.
To me, that's the big shock that I experienced. How many? Yeah. Because I'm intrigued by your claim that we're moving in the better direction. I'm glad to hear that. I'm not seeing it, so I'm glad to hear it, because what I'm seeing is I'm astonished how much of the toxic. So I don't really like that term either. I don't think it's a particularly helpful term, but the alpha, let's call it that, the alpha mentality. How strongly that alpha mentality is pushed to the point where literally I was in a social media conversation with a guy who was promoting many of the alpha mentality behaviors and so forth. And when I called him out on it, he said, well, yeah, I mean, I can see where there are problems with that, but there are some benefits to that approach. Can't we just use the beneficial parts of it? And my response to him would be, I mean, anybody could respond any way they want to, I think, but my own response was, well, go ahead if you want, but let's be honest, that mentality has produced a lot of men who are very much out of touch with who they really are. And in some cases, it has led to abuse of the women. So what harm is there? I'd say there's quite a bit of harm going on.
Yeah.
And that conversation isn't being held very often. That was actually a rare one.
Yeah.
And in terms of the role models for men, the role models for men that I'm seeing are not positive. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm looking for more. I'm trying to actually be one in a sense, but it's a landscape. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and I think too, one of the things that with the point on like sexual discipline and stuff like that, and the men being like, yeah, go sleep with as many women as you want, and you mentioned like, you know, women being mistreated and abused and stuff like that. One of the things that, or like one of my arguments or problems with it would be like, okay, if all you want to do is go sleep around with a ton of women, be honest about that, so that you're not.
By the way, that's the last thing they want to do.
I know. And why though is because I'm going to assume why, and we're going to get like on the kind of the psychology of it, but a lot of the why behind this, why they aren't just upfront about it, is because they know women are generally going to want the emotional connection. And so they know, if I fake emotional connection, or if I let a woman know that there's a possibility for an emotional connection, or if I make her think there is, I'm more likely to be able to get into her pants. But because also the men that are behaving this way, they actually want physical intimacy and they want emotional intimacy. And this is their bypassing way of getting it, because they know, if I just tell a woman I just want sex and she's okay with it, I don't get access to her heart. And I want access to her heart. I want her to care about me and to treat me as if she likes me. Even though I have no plans of reciprocating this, I want to feel that from her. So it's really messed up and really manipulative and so cowardly. Like, okay, if all you want to do is sleep around and have no plans of being exclusive or committing to a woman or being emotionally invested, say that. Say it. There are women who would be down with that. Go for it. Do that instead. But they don't, because they know women a lot generally are looking for relationship and looking for commitment, looking for emotional investment. And because they also secretly they like when a woman puts loving feelings toward them. And they like when a woman cares about them and treats them as if they care about their heart also, not just the hookup side of it.
Anne-Marie, how many times do I say at the end of an hour, I wish we had another hour?
I can't believe we've had an hour.
I know, right?
This is especially the case. I mean, literally, I could think of like 3 or 4 different, strong roads to go down right now based on what we talked about here. And unfortunately, we're out of time. We can't do that.
I know. We could come back. Yeah. I could come back sometime, or we could do a part 2. Continue the conversation on my podcast at some point too.
We may need to do that. That part 2 is probably a good idea. But for the moment, let's see what we can do to wrap this one up. First and foremost, for somebody who wants to actually consider working with you, maybe we have a large female audience here. Maybe somebody wants to work with you. How do they find you?
Absolutely. So you guys can check me out on my website, laurensalon.com. That's LAUREN. SALAUN. I've got like my programs, freebies. I have an amazing texting guide on there, all kinds of stuff on my website. That's also where you would find me on both Instagram and TikTok at Lauren Salon.
Excellent. Second thing, we actually have 3 things we do at the end of every show. The second one is I go to Anne-Marie because Anne-Marie, I keep saying this over and over again, but the guests have never heard it, so that's why I keep saying it. Anne-Marie was originally a listener, and she became a co-host. And so she has a really unique perspective. She knows what it's like from the listener's perspective, from the perspective of someone who decided to listen to the podcast, which, I mean, when I started this podcast 13 years ago. When I started it for me. I didn't start it because I was trying to teach to the world or anything like that. And when I discovered I had listeners, it actually scared the pants off me. But the fact is that I did get listeners. They started to show up. They were actually cool people. I like that a lot. But they know their perspective better than I do. She knows their perspective better than I do. So I always like to know, Anne-Marie, listening to this and participating in this conversation, how are you summarizing this? What are you taking away from this?
Good question.
I feel like we just got started.
So many notes. I think there was some really valuable points in this conversation today, starting from the very beginning where we're on about like accountability and, taking that, working out what that common denominator is and working on yourself to get that. Also, when you hit your goal, if you find somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be happy if you don't do that work on yourself. So that's kind of winds in together. I'm literally terrified of ever dating. It's been an eye-opener. It's not my world. I haven't been out in the dating pool for 30 years. So I can see why you need a coach.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally, what has always been the same throughout time with relationships, and you've touched on it so well, is communication is the key to that relationship. Talk, be clear. And I loved what you said, Lauren, about, be open on where you are, where you want to go, who are we, ask those questions.
Yeah.
And just be clear on that. So I thought that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Excellent. I love that. Final thing I like to do, Lauren, when I first became single, or when I first became married, rather, when I left singlehood, that was back before the internet had become a big thing. It had become something of a thing, but it really hadn't become what it is today. Today we can have this conversation. I presume you're still in LA. I'm in Connecticut, UK. I mean, we're stretched out across the world, and we're having a conversation that 30 years ago was impossible.
It's so cool. I know. It's so cool.
It really is amazing. On top of that, we have all the different tools that are available to us online. So you mentioned working with people who are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur as well. We now have the ability to reach out and to put our ideas and our thoughts and our beliefs out there to find clientele and to find people to work with and so forth in ways that we couldn't do before. So we end up doing like podcasts. You came onto our podcast. You're sharing your stuff here. I'm sure you write stuff. You may have a book. I don't know. But you have a number of different ways that you reach out to people. And we all do that these days. And I noticed that in the process of doing that, we're all helping people that we never find out about. We don't really know how we help them. We just know that that's the way the whole thing works today. And we don't get a lot of credit for it. So Lauren, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't even know about just by sharing your message, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you. Oh, I love that. Thank you. I appreciate it. And it is like, for you guys listening out there, like, I know, I'm sure Walt and Marie, like, you guys resonate with this too, but I love putting what I learn out into the world. And my hope is that it supports somebody in some way, whether I ever hear about it or not. And when someone does like send a message of like, hey, I've been listening to your podcast for a while, or, oh my, hey, this post really helped me. Like, it means so much. It means so much.
It means so much to us too. Thanks for sharing here, sharing ideas and your perspectives and so forth, and keep doing what you're doing. It's good stuff.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Anne-Marie, as well. Loved your perspective on this one. Like you said, it's an eye-opener, isn't it? It really is kind of shocking.
Goodness, yes. We needed part 2 just for me to digest.
I know.
And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.